Hello, YouTubing simmers, for those returning and for those newcomers. Hi there, my name is Rebecca, also known as Curious Safe One, and this is part 6 of my testimony of how I got reacquainted with God, using The Sims 4. These are true events that did happen in my life, which I felt the need to share. So, let's get into it. Now, when I first started working at the nursing home, it's mandatory to get a PPD test done, and optional is a flu shot. Before then, I've never had a flu shot, but I knew it gave symptoms of the flu, so that if you were to get the flu, it wouldn't be as bad. Now, keep in mind that my immune system is already compromised due to my Addison's, so a cold can turn into bronchitis from one day to the next, and bronchitis can turn into pneumonia again from one day to the next. So when I received the flu shot, oh boy, was that the worst decision I ever made in my life. My flu symptoms turned into a buildup of fluid in my sinuses. Within just 3 days, it got so bad that I started having a bump on my forehead, right above my right eyebrow. Now, when I say a bump, I mean a very noticeable bump, where people thought I hit my head, or some would joke about me growing a horn. That's how big it was. I had a headache every day, but more of a migraine type of a headache, where light and sound bothers you. I, of course, ended up on medical leave from my job, and I went 5 times to the hospital because of this, to 3 different hospitals, and they didn't find anything. But then again, they never stuck me in a CAT scan machine to check what the bump was. They said in a nice way that it was all in my head, but the pain and the bump was real. By a week into it, I couldn't eat. Anything I tried to eat would just come right back up. I couldn't even sleep laying down. I had to sleep sitting up, because every time I would lay down, I would choke and then couldn't breathe, as if my airway would close up. It was torture. I was so weak, I had to be carried to the bathroom. I couldn't even stand up. I was already at the stage of malnutrition. The doctors told my mom that I was doing this to myself. They stated to her that I was anorexic and bulimic because I was throwing up too. But I would never purposely do that to myself. Let me tell you, I love food way too much to just waste it by throwing it up again. I was a healthy person, physically, besides for my Addison's. I worked out not to lose weight, but to stay fit. My job was very labor intensive. I would have to pick up or carry a person 2 or sometimes 3 times my body weight. And not everyone in a nursing home walks and gets themselves ready. And the only mechanical lifts we had is a Hoya lift. It looks similar to a motor hoist, but we can't use it on people who are one-person transfers, because it takes 2 people to operate it. And my job still had old-fashioned beds and machinery, as in it wasn't electric, it was manual, as in cranks. Good old-fashioned manpower, or in my case, woman power. So now you see my urgency to stay fit. And even if I was anorexic or bulimic, I wouldn't have the strength, yet alone the energy I needed to continue to do my job that I loved so much. I would have done it for free. So, of course, after 2 weeks go by, and now I'm going on sleep deprivation, since I really wasn't getting much sleep sitting up. And yeah, I was hungry, but I hated to throw up. It's not a fun experience at all. My mom and sister finally helped me into the car one day to take me on another hospital trip. But I turned to them and said, "No, take me to my primary doctor." My sister turned to me and said, "But Becky." Becky is my nickname my family calls me. So she says, "But Becky, you need a hospital. You look like you're dying." And I told her, I said, "Take me to his office, please. I'm not going to another hospital again, just to be sent home feeling like this. I have to go to my primary doctor's office. He will know what to do." I don't know how I knew this, but I knew that he would know just by looking at me what's wrong. Some say it was hope that I had, but it wasn't hope. A small voice told me to go, specifically to his office. I wasn't only looking like I was dying, I felt like I was dying. 14 days without food or sleep will do that to you. But I know that little voice was God guiding me. which is why I said in my last video, God sometimes places doctors in our path to help us. Now, my sister walks me in and sits me on a chair in the waiting room as I waited to be called. It felt like forever. But when you don't feel well, it is forever. When he did finally see me, he knew I wasn't doing well. 1, because you could tell by the way I looked, and 2, because I wasn't there alone. Normally when I go to the doctors, I go by myself. But when I'm there with someone, that means I'm so bad I can't even walk on my own. My sister ran to the pharmacy to get the antibiotic liquid injections. He wanted me to get 3 of those shots in 3 days. The first shot, I waited in his office until my sister came back, and he gave me the shot. And the next 2 shots, I went back the next 2 days for them. I ended up back in his office on the 4th day and still felt horrible. The bump was gone, but still felt horrible. That's when he knew I needed more. A constant drip of antibiotics. And for that, I had to be admitted to the hospital. That was an additional 22 days. A total of 40 days. 40 days of me not feeling well, not eating, hardly drinking, and 3 weeks of hardly sleeping, since I had to sleep sitting up. But thanks to God for putting me in my doctor's office, what needed to get done did get done, because I wouldn't have gotten antibiotics if I would have went to the hospital. And I only say that because if they were going to do that, they would have gave me at least antibiotics in one of my trips to the emergency department. And they didn't. Anybody who knows my story or has gone through it with me say that you can tell that an unseen hand has been helping me throughout my life, because they don't understand how I don't get scared and how I'm still living, talking, and breathing when these things do happen. Some people, instead of being calm and having hope, give up and give in to their illness. But I knew better. Everything in life happens for a reason. I never believe in coincidences. Stay tuned for the next part of my testimony and witness of God's love and mercy.